Hello everybody, my name is Laura and you're watching the Beanbird 2 channel where we talk about the goodness of God and testimonies. And today I have a testimony of a time where God provided a house for us and it really tested our faith, and in the end God did an amazing thing for us and he was faithful. So it began with, we owned a home at this time, and it was a time period where the housing market was doing really well. Houses were selling as soon as they went to market, and we decided that we were going to sell our home. Our family was growing. We had 5 children and a dog, and we were looking for something that was a little bit larger that we could, fit all the children in, and then fit guests that would come in from out of town. And we were also having a lot of repairs on our house that we had. We were constantly repairing it. My husband was spending all of his off time from work and all of his weekends doing house repairs. And we added up how much we were spending in repairs every month, and it averaged out to be $500 a month in repairs. And it was just getting to be a lot, especially with my husband working all day at work and then coming home and working all day. And we just decided it was time to move on, that we could sell the house in this great market and get something that needed less attention so that we could focus on our family and just meet our needs better all the way around. So we found a great Christian realtor. We listed our house for sale, and we had this expectation in our mind. We thought it's going to sell this weekend. And we were kind of shocked when the weekend came and went and we had no offers. But meanwhile, houses all around us were being listed and sold. And we were like, how in the world are all these houses selling, but ours isn't? It just seems so weird. So we were looking at houses that were closer to the city. My husband wanted to be closer to the city so his commute would be shorter, and it would also allow him to have more time with the family. And as we looked, we found a few homes that we were interested in, but they all fell through. They were purchased by other people. It just seemed like nothing was happening, like nothing was working in our favor. Around this time, my brother came from out of town, and he was shopping for houses in the city as well because he was thinking of relocating to this area. And he found a really great new build construction area, and he said, you guys should really check out this area. It's really nice, and there's new homes, and he said new houses is where it's at because you get a really great deal with the builder, and then you have a new house warranty, and since everything's new, you don't have all these repairs like you guys have been doing. You should come check it out. Now, initially we were thinking no way, because it was way outside of the city and we didn't think that that would work for us. But we went with my brother to look at the houses he was interested in, and then his job situation ended up not transferring to this area. But it was just in time for him to take us to the area and show it to us. So we started looking at the area that he was interested in for himself. And as we were looking, we thought, this is pretty nice. And the realtor for the model home said, look, you're coming at a really great time. These lots just opened up. And if you put in a deposit today, I can secure one for you. She said, but they're not going to last. And at first we thought she was just trying to pressure us to sign on the dotted line. But it ended up being that she was right, because we did put a deposit down. And the next, after that weekend was over, all those lots were sold just as she had said they would be. So she wasn't pulling our leg. Like, they really did go as fast as they would. And so we had our deposit in. It was completely refundable. And she knew that we had to sell our old house. No big deal. She's like, houses are selling so fast at this time in these years. She's like, so yeah, just sell your home, and then, this house will be ready for you in a year, because they were going to build it. It hadn't been started yet. So it all sounded great. And we decided that we would look at what we would do if we sold our home, where we would live. We didn't have any family in the area, so we're looking at rental areas, like where we could rent for month to month. And there just really weren't a lot of options. If you do month to month rentals, they're super expensive. And a lot of houses had conditions in there that they wouldn't allow renters for less than a year commitment. And so that kind of ruled out renting a house. And then we looked at apartments, and the ones that were doing month-to-month apartment rentals were really expensive. And having that we had 5 kids and a dog, we also needed a place that would take a dog. And it just started looking really complicated as to how we were going to make that work. So we just decided to table that. We wouldn't worry about the housing in the middle. We're like, let's just not worry about that. Let's just focus on selling our house, and we'll worry about that the rest of that when we get there. So there was deadlines with the new house where she would say we had to have a buyer for our old house before the drywall went up in the new house. And as it came, all these times, days, months, weeks went by, and the house hadn't sold yet. And she said, okay, well, just get a buyer before the kitchen cabinets go in. So we did eventually end up getting an offer on the house that we accepted, and it was a fair offer. And then when they came to do the housing inspection, that day we had this deluge of rain. Tremendous amounts of rain came from the sky that day, and there was water that accumulated in front of the garage. It didn't go into the garage, but since the home was located down a hill, the water had pooled at the bottom of the driveway, and the buyer said that they didn't want the house anymore because of the water. And we offered to put in a drain at our expense in the driveway, but he was resolute. He's like, nope, I don't want the house. And so we lost the deal. And at the time I was thinking, what the heck? Like, God, why did you have it rain? We had that deal and it fell through because of the rain. And it just felt like God was sabotaging it for us. And I know that sounds horrible, but that's what I felt like. I was like, why, God? So we lost the deal, and we were still trying to find a buyer. And we went through probably over 100 showings, and people just kept saying the same thing. The kitchen's too small. We don't like the backyard. It's not open concept enough. And we lowered the price many times, trying to get more buyers, more traffic, and it just wasn't happening. And so in my frustration, I had gone to the model home realtor, and I told her, look, I don't know if our house is going to sell for the amount we need to sell it for in order to buy the new house. I feel like it's not going to happen. And I was crying, and I was just stressed and anxious and upset. And she was just so calm, such a blessed person. She's just so wonderful. And she hugged me, and she said, you don't need to worry. This is the house that God has for you. I know it. I can feel it. She said, me and my realtor partner in that model home, she said, we go to your property every day and we pray for your family. And I know that this is the house God has for you. And I just couldn't believe her, the security of which that she said that. She just knew with confidence. And I was so touched that she would go to our lot and pray for us. I mean, they sell to so many people every day. And I figure, I'm not special. Why would they care if I get this house versus another person? They're just salespeople. But they didn't see it that way. They saw us as people. They saw us as a family. And they cared about us. And she loved us. And she prayed for us. And I was just so moved by that. And at that time, I felt like I was on shifting sand, because I didn't have my foundation set straight in the Lord. I was a Christian, but I was not where I needed to be in my Christian walk at that time. And so, the Lord was taking me through a season of testing my faith. And, but as it came to be, what ended up happening was that it was the week of Christmas. And she had given me a call, and she said, you have to have a buyer for your old house by the end of the week because the new house is done. And if you don't have a buyer by Friday, I'm going to have to list it for sale. And she said, and I know that it will sell as soon as it's listed because of the housing shortage. She said, but don't be afraid. I know this is your house. I feel that the Lord has this house for you, and I've been praying for you. She said, you're going to get a buyer this week. I know it. She's like, so don't be afraid. And I was like, okay. But you guys know Christmas week is not the week to try and sell a house. Everybody has their mind on the holiday, and nobody's thinking about moving. But as it happened, I think it was a day or two before Christmas, we had a walkthrough, and somebody gave us an offer on the house. Now, granted, the offer was $10,000 below what we needed in order to buy the new house, which was already finished in construction. So I called my realtor and I said, I don't think we're going to be able to make it work. The offer is too low. Is there any chance that we can counter it and raise the $10,000? And he said, no, this is the max that they're approved for. It has to be this price. He said, however, let me talk to the model home realtor agent and get back with you. So we waited. He called back and he said, okay, I got off the phone with the realtor from the model. And he said, she and I are going to work together. We're going to split our commissions, and I'm going to give you $5,000 of my commission, and she's going to give you $5,000 of her commission. And if we pull it together, you'll have the $10,000 extra that you need to close on the new house. And I was like, I don't know if that's right. I mean, you guys have done all this work for us. Like, certainly I don't deserve that. And like, you guys have worked so hard, and I don't think it's fair to take money like from you like that. And he's like, no, her and I agree. We want to do this for you. You'll bless us by taking it. Allow us to help you in this way. And so I talked to my husband about it, and we decided to accept the gift. They were offering it as a gift. And so we accepted the gift, and the house ended up closing the next month. And it actually also ended up being a blessing in all these ways. Number one, when we sold the house, we were able to go from the old house and into the new house, and we went straight from one to the other. We didn't require any middle housing, no apartment or rental house in the middle, which allowed us to move our 5 kids and our dog from one house right into the other, and it made for the smoothest transition for our family. And I believe that was the Lord's plan all along, was that he was going to take care of us in this way, that we could go from one house to the next. And if anybody has ever done a move like that, it is next to impossible to time the move of selling your old house to be able to move into the new house that smoothly. So that was completely a miracle. And now I look back and I think, why was I so anxious? Of course, that's why God didn't had that rainstorm that canceled that buyer, because if that buyer had bought it, that would have been in April. That would have been way too early, because the new house wasn't ready until December. But the Lord knew that. And if I had trusted in his plan, I wouldn't have stressed that when that house deal didn't go through, about what was going to happen. The next thing that the Lord did for us was that we ended up buying a house outside of the main city. And that ended up being a huge blessing, because at the time we were only looking at houses that were right next to the city center. And we ended up buying this house outside of the city, in the outskirts of the suburbs, which we weren't even interested in looking at before. But as it happened, after all this went down, we had the lockdowns took place, and the work from home thing took place. And my husband said, I'm so glad we don't live in the city, because at the time, the cities were exploding with violence all over the country, and being in the suburbs was really nice, because my husband was able to work from home. And he was like, there's no way we could have foreseen that this was going to happen this way. And it worked out perfect that we were outside of the city center. So God knew that too. And so I just want to share that testimony about how that year was incredibly stressful and anxious for me. But the reason why it was stressful and anxious was because I wasn't really trusting in the Lord. I didn't really think he was working in the situation. And I think there's a part of me that was trying to handle it and do it all myself, and that created the stress. But when I look back on it and I see how the timing was exactly perfect, and that the realtors that we worked with were beautiful Christian people that helped us and loved us, and I have, their love that I remember in my heart, and what a blessing that is, and that God cared to take care of our family, to make sure that we went smoothly from one house to the next, and it all came together. And so, my friend, God is with you, and he cares. He loves you, and you can trust that he wants the best thing for you, and that whatever difficult situation you're in, he's going to see you through the other side. And you can release stress and anxiety when you take yourself out of it and just place it all, your trust in him, and allow him to work it out for you on your behalf. And so that's my housing testimony. I hope it blesses you today, and I will see you all tomorrow.